You know what's funny? People only pay attention when they start losing access. When you were quiet, invisible, building yourself piece by piece in the dark, they laughed. They looked past you like you were nothing special. No applause, no support, no respect, just silence. But silence, oh, silence is dangerous when the right person is using it. See? While they were busy judging your current chapter, you were writing a whole new story behind closed doors. While they were gossiping, you were evolving. While they were sleeping, you were sharpening your mind, strengthening your soul, and outgrowing every cage they thought would hold you. And now they finally notice. But not because they care, because they can't reach you anymore. Now your energy is different. Your standards are different. Your circle is smaller. Your mindset is untouchable. The same doors you once knocked on, you own the keys now. The same people who ignored your rise are staring at your glow like it came from nowhere. That's the joke, isn't it? They thought growth would make noise. They expected announcements, bragging, attention, seeking. But real growth is quiet. Real power moves in silence. By the time they notice it, it was already too late. So tonight, let's talk about what happens when they underestimate a person who chooses discipline over drama, purpose over popularity, and growth over validation. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is become unreachable. Most people only respect the finished version of a person. They celebrate the shine, the confidence, the results, the power. But they forget there was a time before all of that, when the same person was still learning, still struggling, still trying to understand who they were. That early version of you was not broken. It was unfinished. But people love to confuse unfinished with unworthy. They looked at your beginning and decided it was your ending. They judged your temporary stage like it was your permanent identity. They saw you when you were nervous, uncertain, inexperienced, and they assumed that was all you would ever be. They did not understand that every strong person once looked weak. Every master once looked average. Every confident voice once shook with fear. Every successful person once had empty pockets, unanswered messages, and moments of doubt. The beginning of greatness rarely looks impressive. It often looks slow, awkward, and invisible. That is why so many people miss it. They only know how to recognize power after it becomes obvious. They cannot detect potential when it is still quiet. When they ignored the early version of you, they were really exposing their own shallow vision. They only knew how to value what already had proof attached to it. They only knew how to clap for things once the crowd approved them first. They could not see the hunger in your eyes, the lessons in your losses, the fire hidden inside your silence. They saw your current circumstances and thought they were seeing your future. That mistake cost them the chance to witness your rise with understanding. Some people dismissed you because you were humble. You were not loud enough for their standards. You were not flashy enough for their attention. You were not desperate enough to perform for acceptance. They wanted entertainment, not depth. They wanted instant results, not long-term development. Since you were building slowly, they thought you were doing nothing. Since you were moving quietly, they thought you had no direction. Since you were patient, they thought you lacked ambition. What they never realized is that roots grow in silence. Before a tree becomes visible above the ground, an unseen system is forming underneath. Strength often develops where no one is watching. Character is built in lonely moments. Confidence is built through repeated failure. Wisdom is built through pain. Discipline is built through boring routines nobody praises. The early version of you was handling battles they knew nothing about. You were learning how to stand when life kept trying to break your knees. You were learning how to think clearly when confusion surrounded you. You were learning how to keep going without applause. Many people want to be present only for the celebration, not the construction. They disappear when there is no glamour attached. They ignore the seed and then become shocked by the tree. They laugh at the practice and then envy the performance. They dismiss the process and then resent the result. But every result has a story hidden behind it. Every polished version of a person was once rough, uncertain, and underestimated. The early version of you deserved respect too. The version that made mistakes deserved patience. The version that was insecure deserved compassion. The version that was trying and failing deserved encouragement. The version that had dreams bigger than resources deserved belief. But many people were too blind to offer that. They only wanted to associate with what looked complete. That is why your growth feels so surprising to them now. They never paid attention to the work. They only noticed the outcome. They never studied the nights you stayed focused. They never counted the sacrifices you made. They never understood the mindset shifts, the heartbreaks, the discipline, the setbacks that shaped you. To them, it looked sudden. To you, it was earned inch by inch. And there is a lesson in that. Never let someone's inability to recognize your early stage make you doubt your future stage. Never confuse being overlooked with being unimportant. Never mistake a lack of applause for a lack of progress. Sometimes the people around you cannot see where you are going because they are trapped by where you currently stand. Your beginning was never meant to impress everyone. It was meant to prepare you. It was meant to humble you, train you, stretch you, and sharpen you. The early version of you carried pain, so the later version could carry power. The ignored version of you laid the foundation for the respected version of you. And the people who underestimated that stage were simply announcing that they do not understand how transformation works. Silent growth is one of the most misunderstood forces in life. People often believe progress must be loud, visible, and dramatic. They think growth always comes with announcements, applause, and obvious changes that everyone can notice immediately. But some of the most powerful transformations happen quietly, where no one is paying attention. Real growth often begins in the dark, in seasons where nothing seems to be happening on the surface. It happens in private choices, hidden discipline, painful lessons, and repeated effort that receives no recognition. Many people only respect what they can see. They celebrate promotions, money, status, popularity, and public victories. But they overlook the invisible habits that created those outcomes. They ignore the mornings someone woke up early to improve themselves. They ignore the nights someone stayed focused while others wasted time. They ignore the emotional battles someone fought alone. They ignore the moments a person chose patience instead of revenge, learning instead of complaining, and consistency instead of excuses. Those private decisions may look small, but they are where real change is born. When growth happens in the dark, it can feel frustrating because there is no immediate reward. No one praises you for resisting distractions. No one applauds you for healing in silence. No one throws celebrations because you controlled your emotions, read another chapter, practiced another skill, or stayed committed for one more day. It can feel like you are giving energy to something that nobody values. But that hidden season is often the most valuable season of all because it builds substance instead of image. A person who grows only in public may learn how to impress people. A person who grows in private learns how to become powerful. There is a difference between appearance and foundation. Appearance can be created quickly. Foundation takes time. Anyone can post success, speak confidently, or pretend to have it together for a moment. But private discipline reveals itself eventually. So does private weakness. What is built in secret always shows up later in visible form. Think about how many things in life develop out of sight. Roots form underground, before the tree rises above the soil. A child develops in the womb before entering the world. Muscles repair and strengthen after training, often while resting. Ideas form in the mind before they become reality. Nature itself teaches that important development often begins where eyes cannot see it. Yet many people become discouraged simply because their progress is not yet visible. The dark season can also represent confusion, pain, and uncertainty. Sometimes growth happens when life feels unclear. You may not know where you are going. You may feel isolated. You may wonder if your effort matters. You may compare yourself to people who seem ahead. But darkness has a purpose. It removes distractions. It forces introspection. It teaches patience. It reveals character. When external validation disappears, you discover whether your motivation is real or borrowed. Silent growth often requires trusting yourself before there is evidence. That is difficult for many people. They want guarantees before commitment. They want results before sacrifice. They want confidence before action. But growth asks for faith first. It asks you to continue planting when there is no harvest in sight. It asks you to continue learning when no one notices. It asks you to continue refining yourself even when others misunderstand your quietness. Many people mistake silence for stagnation. If you are not posting every move, they assume nothing is happening. If you are not explaining yourself, they assume you have no direction. If you step back to focus, they think you disappeared. What they fail to understand is that silence can be strategic. Sometimes the loudest person in the room is the least prepared. Sometimes the quietest person is building something that will speak for itself later. There is strength in becoming comfortable with unseen progress. It means your identity is no longer dependent on applause. It means your standards are internal, not external. It means you can continue working even when the crowd loses interest. That kind of mindset creates durability. Anyone can move when motivated. Few people continue when no one is watching. Eventually, silent growth becomes visible. The confidence appears. The skill sharpens. The energy changes. The results arrive. People call it sudden because they only notice the ending. They did not witness the months or years of invisible effort that created it. They think you changed overnight because they were absent during the process. That is why you should never disrespect your hidden season. The dark moments may feel lonely, but they are often productive. The quiet periods may feel empty, but they are often shaping you. What seems slow may actually be deep. What seems invisible may be preparing to become undeniable. Some of the greatest versions of yourself are formed long before the world ever sees them. Discipline is the reason some people become unreachable while others remain stuck in the same cycles for years. Talent can attract attention, personality can open doors, and luck can create moments. But discipline is what changes a person permanently. It is the force that separates who you used to be from who you are becoming. While many people wait for motivation, discipline keeps moving. While others make promises, discipline creates proof. While people complain about circumstances, discipline quietly builds an exit. Most people think becoming unreachable means arrogance, distance, or acting superior. But true unreachability has nothing to do with ego. It means you no longer have access to the mindset, habits, and standards that once kept you small. It means old distractions cannot pull you back. It means chaos no longer controls your peace. It means the version of you that accepted less has expired. Discipline starts in small moments that seem unimportant. Waking up when you said you would. Finishing tasks when excuses feel easier. Keeping your word to yourself. Controlling impulses that once controlled you. Choosing long-term gain over short-term comfort. These moments rarely look dramatic, but repeated daily, they reshape identity. A person does not become powerful through one grand act. They become powerful through many ordinary acts done consistently. At first, discipline feels uncomfortable because it demands war against habits that once felt natural. Laziness resists it. Fear resists it. Doubt resists it. The mind will offer excuses with convincing voices. It will tell you tomorrow is better. It will say one missed day does not matter. It will suggest rest when what you really need is focus. Discipline teaches you to hear those voices without obeying them. Many people remain reachable because they are available to every distraction. One notification can steal their attention. One insult can ruin their mood. One setback can break their momentum. One temptation can derail their progress. Their mind belongs to whatever appears in front of them. Discipline changes that. It trains you to choose response over reaction. It builds the ability to stay aligned with purpose, even when life becomes noisy. When discipline enters your life, your standards begin to rise. You stop entertaining people who drain you. You stop wasting hours on habits that weaken you. You stop negotiating with the goals you claim to want. You begin to understand that every yes to nonsense is a no to growth. This realization alone makes you harder to reach, because many people only had access to the undisciplined version of you. The old version of you may have tolerated disrespect. Discipline teaches self-respect. The old version may have chased validation. Discipline teaches internal approval. The old version may have been emotionally unstable. Discipline teaches regulation. The old version may have talked endlessly about plans. Discipline teaches execution. As these shifts happen, people who benefited from your old weaknesses begin to feel distance. Some relationships only survive when you lack structure. Some environments only feel comfortable when you lack ambition. Some people enjoy you most when you are confused, available, and easy to influence. The moment discipline sharpens you, their comfort disappears. They call you different because you no longer fit the role they assigned to you. They say you changed because you no longer tolerate what once drained you. Discipline also creates unreachability through competence. When you practice consistently, skill increases. When skill increases, confidence grows. When confidence grows, desperation fades. You no longer need to beg for chances because you become valuable. You no longer need constant reassurance because your work has given you evidence. You no longer fear every opinion because you know what you bring. This inner stability cannot be purchased or faked. It is earned through repeated effort. There will be lonely seasons in discipline. While others choose comfort, you may choose sacrifice. While others celebrate every weekend, you may be building. While others laugh at your routine, you may be transforming quietly. In those moments it can feel like you are missing out, but discipline often asks for temporary separation so that permanent growth becomes possible. Over time, discipline changes how life responds to you. Opportunities begin to trust you. Responsibilities fit you. Pressure no longer crushes you as easily. Your presence becomes calmer, stronger, more intentional. People sense the difference even if they cannot explain it. They remember the version of you that was easy to distract, easy to manipulate, easy to outwork. That version is gone. Becoming unreachable is not about hiding from the world. It is about refusing to be accessible to patterns that once limited you. It is about building a mind that chaos cannot easily enter. It is about creating habits that carry you farther than feelings ever could. It is about becoming so aligned with growth that lesser things lose their grip. Discipline is quiet in the beginning and obvious in the end. At first it looks like boring repetition. Later it looks like confidence, peace, results, and strength. People notice the outcome and call it luck, timing, or natural talent. They rarely mention the mornings you kept going, the nights you stayed focused, or the days you worked when motivation was absent. That is how discipline makes a person unreachable. not by making them proud, but by making them solid. Not by separating them from people, but by separating them from weakness. Not by creating distance for appearance, but by creating standards that chaos can no longer cross. Success changes more than your income, your status, or the way others speak about you. Real success changes access and energy. It changes who can reach you, how they reach you, and what kind of presence is allowed around you. Many people believe success is only about gaining things, but one of its deepest effects is that it forces boundaries. It teaches you that not everything deserves entry into the life you worked hard to build. Before success, access is usually easy. People can reach you anytime. They can interrupt your focus, borrow your time, waste your attention, and treat your presence as something common. When you are still building, many people assume your availability is endless. They expect instant replies, constant emotional labor, unlimited patience, and no standards. They become comfortable with a version of you that always adjusts to everyone else. But when success starts changing you, time becomes valuable in a different way. You begin to understand that attention is a currency. Every hour spent on nonsense is an hour stolen from purpose. Every unnecessary argument costs mental energy. Every toxic connection drains momentum. Every distraction delays progress. Success teaches that protecting your schedule is not selfish. Protecting your peace is not rude. Guarding your focus is not arrogance. That is when access begins to change. Not everyone who knew you can still reach you in the same way. Some people become upset because they were attached to your old availability. They miss the version of you that said yes to everything. They miss the version of you that tolerated inconsistency, disrespect, lateness, manipulation, and chaos. They call you distant when in reality you simply became selective. Selective people often get misunderstood. When you start valuing your time, people say you changed. When you stop answering drama, they say you think you are better. When you create standards, they say you forgot where you came from. But growth naturally creates filters. A person cannot rise while remaining open to everything. Doors need locks for a reason. Boundaries are not hate. Boundaries are maintenance. Success also changes energy. You begin to feel more sensitive to what surrounds you. Environments that once felt normal now feel heavy. Conversations that once entertained you now feel empty. Habits that once comforted you now feel destructive. You notice who brings calm and who brings confusion. You notice who inspires growth and who feeds stagnation. You notice who celebrates you genuinely and who only studies you with envy. Energy is not magic language. It is the emotional atmosphere people carry. Some people bring peace, accountability, honesty, and momentum. Others bring jealousy, negativity, excuses, and hidden tension. Before growth, many people ignore these differences. They stay around draining individuals because they are familiar. But success sharpens awareness. You start realizing that being around the wrong energy can quietly sabotage your mindset. That is why many successful people seem quieter. They are not always trying to be mysterious. Often they are protecting internal clarity. They know one bitter conversation can pollute focus. They know one manipulative person can consume weeks of attention. They know one toxic environment can normalize low standards again. Silence becomes protection. Distance becomes wisdom. As access changes, relationships are tested. Some people adapt and grow with you. They respect boundaries, honor your time, and appreciate your evolution. Others resent the new rules. They only liked you when access was unlimited. They only felt comfortable when your standards were low. Once they have to earn trust, communicate properly, or respect your schedule, they lose interest or become offended. This reveals an important truth. Some connections were built on convenience, not care. Some people loved proximity, not you. They loved how easy you were to use, how available you were to call, how willing you were to shrink for peace. Once success removes that version of you, the relationship weakens because the foundation was false. Success also changes your own energy toward yourself. You begin carrying more confidence, not because you feel superior, but because effort gave you evidence. You trust yourself more because you kept promises to yourself. You feel calmer because you survived difficult seasons. You move differently because you know what discipline required. This inner energy affects how others interact with you. People sense self-respect even before you speak. With that self-respect comes a refusal to entertain what once seemed acceptable. You no longer chase lukewarm attention. You no longer argue to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. You no longer stay in rooms where your presence is undervalued. You no longer hand unlimited access to people who mishandle small access. Many observers only notice the surface. They say success made you cold. They say money changed you. They say recognition made you difficult. Often what truly happened is awareness changed you. Standards changed you. Responsibility changed you. Peace became too expensive to waste. Time became too meaningful to donate carelessly. Success does not always add people to your life. Sometimes it subtracts them. It closes doors that should have stayed closed. It limits contact with what drains you. It teaches that open access to everyone can destroy what took years to build. It reminds you that not every hand reaching toward you deserves to touch your future. And the strongest energy shift of all is when you stop needing everyone to understand. You no longer explain every boundary. You no longer defend every decision. You no longer feel guilty for protecting what you created. You simply move with clarity, allow respect in, keep chaos out, and let those offended by your growth remain outside the gates they once ignored. There comes a point in growth where explanation becomes unnecessary. You stop trying to convince people of your value, your vision, or your progress. You stop arguing with those who chose to misunderstand you. You stop chasing closure from people who only respected you when you were easier to control. At that point, one truth becomes clear: let them watch what they lost. Many people do not recognize worth while they still have access to it. Familiarity makes them careless. They assume your patience will always remain. They think your loyalty has no limits. They treat your presence like something guaranteed. Because you were available, they thought you were ordinary. Because you were kind, they thought you were weak. Because you stayed calm, they thought you lacked power. They confused consistency with simplicity. Some people only appreciate things after distance arrives. They notice the silence after they caused noise. They notice the loyalty after they chose betrayal. They notice the support after they replaced it with selfishness. They notice your peace after their chaos no longer has somewhere to live. Loss often creates clarity that gratitude never did. When someone undervalues you, the instinct is often to prove them wrong immediately. You want to explain your intentions, list your sacrifices, remind them of what you did, or force them to see what they missed. But growth teaches a stronger response. Results speak cleaner than arguments. Boundaries teach faster than begging. Absence reveals value louder than speeches ever can. Letting them watch what they lost is not revenge. It is restraint. It is choosing progress over pettiness. It is refusing to spend energy correcting every false opinion. It is understanding that some lessons can only be learned through consequences. People who ignored your worth may need to experience life without your presence to understand what it provided. There is power in walking away without destroying yourself to make a point. Some people remain stuck because they keep returning to places where they were disrespected, hoping the next conversation will produce understanding. But some minds only understand through missing something real. No explanation can compete with absence. No debate can compete with reality. When you keep growing after being dismissed, observers become confused. They expected rejection to break you. They expected neglect to lower your confidence. They expected betrayal to make you bitter. Instead, you became sharper, calmer, wiser, and more focused. That transformation forces them to confront something uncomfortable. They misjudged you. People are often more disturbed by your healing than by your pain. Your pain made them feel powerful. Your confusion made them comfortable. Your dependence gave them leverage. But your recovery removes that control. Your success rewrites the story they told themselves about who you were. That is why some people watch from a distance after losing access. They are studying the version of you they never expected to exist. Sometimes they watch silently through social media, mutual circles, or rumors. Sometimes they ask others about you. Sometimes they act uninterested while paying close attention. Sometimes they return pretending nothing happened. Not always because they love you, but because growth attracts attention from those who once overlooked it. The important lesson is not to perform for their eyes. If you keep succeeding just to make others regret losing you, then they still control your direction. True growth happens when your progress is no longer about revenge, validation, or applause. You build because becoming better is your responsibility. You heal because peace matters. You succeed because purpose matters. Their reaction becomes irrelevant. Let them watch, but do not become the actor in their theater. Keep your focus inward. Continue building habits, discipline, and self-respect. Continue choosing environments that honor your value. Continue protecting your energy from people who only return when they sense improvement. What they lost may not simply be a person. They may have lost loyalty, honesty, consistency, patience, encouragement, or genuine love. Those qualities are rare, and many only realize rarity after treating it casually. They thought another version would be easy to find. They discovered character cannot be replaced as quickly as attention can. There is also wisdom in remembering that you once lost yourself by tolerating less than you deserved. So while they may have lost access to you, make sure you never lose access to yourself again. Do not trade your standards for nostalgia. Do not reopen doors simply because someone feels the emptiness they created. Missing you is not the same as valuing you. Watching you is not the same as respecting you. Sometimes the greatest statement is a peaceful life lived without bitterness. No dramatic speeches, no public revenge, no desperate updates. Just steady growth, clear boundaries, and visible peace. The people who mishandled your presence will notice the difference on their own. And if they never notice, it still changes nothing. Your life was never meant to pause until others recognized your worth. Their awareness is optional. Your evolution is not. So let them watch if they choose. Let them wonder if they need to. Let them replay old moments and realize too late what they treated lightly. Your task is simpler. Keep becoming someone loss had to teach them about.